Yeah. Forgot to play some music though. So play some music in your head. Think we're like go for like funky disco party. That's what we're going
Ooh.
with, you know, because
Honestly, I've been on a Whitney Houston kick,
she's the
so that's
best.
what's playing in my mind now.
Yes. Yeah, so if any of you joined us yesterday, that was our first song of New Agent Bootcamp, which was exciting. But I want
Yes.
to ask everybody though, okay, so in the chat, let us know how many sessions have you joined so far for New Agent Bootcamp? Or is this your first one joining us? So tell us in the chat.
Ooh,
I'm
good
curious.
one.
5, all of them. Wow.
All,
Oh my gosh,
all.
so many are all.
I was gonna say
2,
for
3.
the alls or around the 4, I'm
This is
recognizing.
the 5th now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Whoa. I'm in
Really?
it to win it. I love that. Yes. Oh, and I'm sorry,
Um,
everyone. I forgot that you can't see the chat. So let me turn that on so everyone can see. Yes, this is and today, well, yesterday was super awesome too, but today really great because obviously we're talking about this stuff that we do every day, you know, Travefy. So it's really exciting. But I can't believe though, Bonnie, we've put in a lot of stuff in 2 days.
I know. I'm wondering how everyone's feeling.
I
I
know.
feel
Is
like
everyone like, this is great? Or like, oh my gosh, it's so much. But the good thing is, though, is I will tell you this a couple times throughout this, but we are recording. So if you're like, this is a lot, you know what? You can come back. You can come back, give it a week, come back and you can like pause it, do all that good stuff. So it'll be
yeah,
really
it'll
cool.
be good. It'll all click at,
It'll click.
Friday night.
Yeah, I know. You'll be like, right when you're like ready for the weekend, you're like, I remembered all that.
Minute.
I know. So it's so cool. But thank you all for joining us again because it's so amazing to see how so many of you are joining us for like all of these. We understand your schedule's so busy. So for you to make time for us means a lot that, you know, and we're so glad to hear that this has been quality information too and really good stuff. And yeah, and like Jim just said, over 4 years of Travefy, still learning new tricks. There's so much to know. And that's why I'm actually really excited for this one because in the webinar that Bonnie did previously, just kind of on, I always like to say our bread and butter, which is like itinerary builder. There was a lot of questions though that came in about like forms and all this kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
that's a lot of the newer tools that have been added in the last few years. Or I like to say post COVID, like a lot of post COVID stuff, that thing that happened. And so that's why I'm excited for this webinar because we're going to talk about a lot of things that you probably might not knows in your account. And also we just are adding stuff all the time. So there's just so much. So it's not surprising that you're still learning new tricks. And then I'm excited too because I'm going to sprinkle in lots of pro tips into this one. So I have many pro tips that are about to be bestowed upon you all in this. But before I jump into everything though, I do just want to do a couple housekeeping things. So first of all, for today's sessions. And apologies for those who have been joining us. You're like, yes, I know what's coming up next. But if this is your first session joining us, today is day 2 of New Agent Bootcamp. And today's all about Travefy, the Travefy product and how you set it up for your business so you can sell more and win. So the first one, Bonnie already kicked it off earlier with talking about standing out and impressing clients with itineraries and proposals. Fantastic. It was such a great webinar. That was a lot of fun. Bonnie, you nailed it. It was really good. Yes. And now you kind of get to hang out just for this session, give you a little break here. Because then I'm going to walk you through how to streamline your business with our CRM tools. So we'll get more into the agenda here in a minute. But then the last webinar of the day and of New Agent Bootcamp 2024, Bonnie's coming back in. We really are putting Bonnie to work today. And she's doing another webinar on setting up your travel website with Travefy, and it's so great. We both love the website builder. It's one of our favorite tools, and so really excited for that as well. But keep in mind these are all being recorded, and they're actually available right after we're done. So if you go back to the page that you would have signed up with, so this is where you register for each session, you'll be able to see where you can watch the recordings. Now, you might have to give it about 15, 20 minutes after a session concludes, but it'll be there. And then on Monday, we'll put it on our YouTube channel. So you can have it there forever and ever, which is really awesome. The other thing too, though, is that day one, so yesterday, all those recordings are also available online. So you can check out all of those. And again, that was all expert industry education. So we didn't talk about Travefy like we are today. That is more just like things in the industry. So really amazing. They were so good. So definitely check those out if you missed them. Those are already available for you. Um, Another thing, so I already mentioned this, we are recording. But one other thing I want to mention, I forget to say this sometimes, but um, throw your questions in the Q&A panel. So I am going to try my I'm going to be honest, I have a lot today. So I don't know how much time I'll have for questions, but I'm going to try to get to some of them. So put your questions in the Q&A panel. You can use the chat, but it gets a little hard sometimes to keep up in the chat. So try to use that Q&A panel if you can. And then Bonnie will try to get those as well and reply back. But know that our team is here and happy to help. So we'll be talking about this, but we have a lot of support available to you. You can always get in your Travefy account. Even if you just start a new trial, you can get in your Travefy account, and then in the bottom left-hand corner, you can go in there and you can ask questions. So you could literally do that while I'm on here doing stuff as well. So just know that we are here and happy to help if we don't get your question answered during this session, but hopefully we can answer many of them. But okay, with that being said, now we got through the housekeeping things. So now what I want to do is I want to jump in here. So here's the agenda for today. And again, we're doing a lot of things here today. So basically in Travefy, let me actually go here first because this is all the different tools built within your Travefy account. Now, the website landing pages we're going to be talking about in the next session. But I am going to be focusing on these two. I'm going to be talking about forms, credit card authorization, and then also our CRM, where you can organize your client contacts, and automation, task lists, all kinds of things. So when we talk about a CRM, what that is a customer relationship management. And I hope I did that right. I'm pretty sure that's right. I feel like I always mix one of those words up, but that's what it is. So if you've ever heard the term CRM, that's what it is. It's basically one place that you can keep information organized for your clients. Now at Travefy, we've been building on, we didn't start there. We started as proposals and itineraries, which Bonnie talked about in the last session. But then we started realizing, people were like, I need a really simple way to organize everything and go look up my client's information. So that's where we created our CRM, which is called Contacts. But within the CRM, we've built on so much more. So we have things now where you can automate to send something. You can create a form to collect information, and then those responses go into their client contact profile. I mean, there's just so much, and we're going to walk through all of it today. So again, when you hear me talk about CRM, it's all about organizing your business, pretty much like the business part of it, like all your client information. So that's where we're going to spend time at. Now, for today's agenda, I have a lot to go over, but my plan today is after this, I'm going to jump into our CRM, into contacts, walk you through. I'm going to give you a tour of it. So that way, when you get in your own account, you know what it looks like, where to go, how it works. But then we're going to talk about how do you start setting up so you can import your clients in there. So again, we're looking at this like if you're a brand new Travefy user, here's how you start adding this information. So I'm going to show how do you import your clients' information in. Then I'm going to talk about how you organize that information, give you some pro tips along the way. And then I'm going to talk about forms. So I do want to talk about, again, like how do you build a form to collect information from a client? So we'll talk about how you get those basic forms set up, which also includes credit card authorization. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. And then I'm also going to do a little bit talking about our invoicing, which is a tool that we have that allows you to charge fees. And it just goes right through Travefy. So we'll talk about that. And then finally, the last thing is kind of bringing everything together with our task lists and automations. Because again, you can set up automations to like send forms or trip invites and all kinds of things. And again, this will all make, if what I'm talking about, you're like, what? This will all make sense as I go through them today. So that's going to be the great stuff. And then, of course, again, ask those questions and we'll try to answer a few of them at the end as well. But with that being said, the first thing I want to do is give you a little tour of Travefy CRM. So step aboard, ladies and gentlemen. We're going on a little tour here. So I'm going to switch my screen really quick because I want to jump in. Let me go into this screen. This is an account that I usually work out of, so I have content in here already. So after we leave this area, I'm gonna go back into our new account, so it will look more like what yours might look like. But I want to give you a tour of contacts here. So when you enter contacts, you first need to just log into your account and you'll see something very similar where you'll see your trips in here, all of that. But at the top is contacts. That's what you want to click on. When you click on contacts, this is where all your client contact information will be stored. So again, we're going to talk about how you start adding them in, but just to give you an interface walkthrough here, you can see here's my contacts that I have in here currently. If I click on Jane Doe, now this contact profile like expands and there's a lot of different things that I can see and do in here. So just to walk you through, you can see that we have an area to set up these tasks, which we will be talking about at the end. But then you can also add things like if you ever need to add any description for this person, you can. And I should mention too, everything you're seeing right now is only internally able to view. So I've seen that question before. Someone's like, "Oh, does my client see that?" Because you might make a description or notes that just wouldn't make sense for the client. You're like, "I hope they can't see that," because they'd be confused. No worries. This is only for you to see. So in that description, you could put like anything you need to remember them, or you can also keep those notes. So a lot of times if you get like on a call with them, maybe you go ahead, jot some notes down, or maybe they just got done with their trip and you're doing a follow-up call and you want to put all the notes, like the things they like, things they maybe didn't like as much, whatever it might be. That's where you can start keeping those notes in there. You also, of course, can keep main detail information like email address, phone number, address. You can put all of that in here under their details. Now, you can also add multiple of one item. So let's say they have 2 email addresses. You could add 2 email addresses. So it's not like you have to stay limited to these. You can add multiple like phone numbers, things like that in there. But then you can see that we give you email, phone, and address. Now you're probably asking, okay, what if I like to get other information? Like I need to know their birth date, I need to get like their passport information, whatever it might be. That's where the custom fields come into play. So custom fields, which we're going to go more in depth on, this is a way that you can add your own fields, in to save things in here again. So that way, if you like to have like dietary information, whatever it is, that's where you create a custom field. You only have to create it once and then it appears for every client contact. And that's how you begin to build off of those different details that you're saving for that person. The other thing that you'll see down here in the middle, you can see these little green block or like bullets there. These are labels. So if you ever have to organize your contacts, whether it might be like it's a group trip and you're trying to organize all the different contacts that are part of that group trip, or maybe they're all part of a family, that's how you can do that. You can add labels on there. It's a really great way to, again, keep it organized in there. It's so good because you can also see like I have an example here of like VIP client, so then that way when you come in here, you can just click VIP clients and see and be like, oh, I need to follow up. I need to check in with them or something, all that kind of stuff. But then when you come over here on the right, you can see there are those notes. You can see you can always edit these. You can see when they were created and by who. So if you do have, you're working in a team, you can see who's writing these notes. You can also, of course, since this is in Travefy, you can see what trips and what proposals and what itineraries you've sent to them, they've been part of. You can view all of those. It just automatically syncs to their contact profile. You also can view the forms that they've filled out. So we're going to talk about that. But when you do create a form and they fill it out, here's where you go view those responses. So again, it all intuitively knows where to go. So when we talk about organization, that's what we mean. It's all syncing into one place, which is fantastic. So you can always come in there, view those. And then finally, this is one of my favorite things, that you also can save documents in here. Now, I'm going to talk about this when we get into forms, but recently, earlier this year, we released the ability where you can collect, ask for secure documents. So a good example is, I need a picture of your passport. So you could ask for that, and it is secured. It's safe and secure to collect it, because then it goes into this area right here, so you can go access it again. So I'll talk some more about that, but it's really cool because think about all the documents you can upload, and your client's traveling, they need something, and you're like, don't worry, I have it. Let me go. You just go into their profile, go grab it, and then you can do whatever you need with it. So how incredible. It's really, really, really handy that way. So that's just really an overview. Very simple, right? And that's the purpose of contacts. That is what we did. I talked about this earlier, but why we created the CRM functionality is because people were asking for it. They were looking for a way that's simple. You have your Salesforce and HubSpot, and they're great, but there's a lot going on. They're expensive. There's a lot of bells and whistles. And many people just didn't need that. So that's why what you're seeing is so simple, and it's so great. Great way to keep everything organized in there. So now let's go talk about how I got all this in here. So I'm going to switch my screen back over here. I am going to go back to this right here. Let me get back on that. So we did a little tour here, but now let's talk about how do I actually get those clients in here. So how does this work? How do we set this up? So I'm going to go back into my Travefy account. Now you can see, if you were joined us on the last session, you can see the stuff that Bonnie worked on is in here. So we're working off the same account. We created this brand new, so that way what you're seeing is exactly what you would see if you started a new trial. So you can really follow along with us here. Now, since I'm in this account now, I want to go to contacts. So remember, that's where I was. So I am going to go contacts, and you can see there's nothing in here. It's blank. So I'm going to add a new contact. Now, there's different ways that you can add contacts, but just to show you the first way, you can just go ahead and add a new contact one by one and just add it manually. So if you have a new client that comes in and you're like, oh, let me create a contact profile for them and get their information in, all you'll do is just click the new contact button in the top left-hand corner here. And then you can see here, now what I can do, I can add a name. So let's just say Sally Smith. And then in here, I can go ahead and say, okay, that's her name. So now she has a name. Then down here, the next thing I want to do is I just want to add the email and phone. So I'm going to come down under details right here, and I'm going to click add. Now I can choose, what do I want to add? So I'm just going to, let's start off with the email. So I'm going to go ahead and add in this email here. And I'm actually using a Travefy email there, just so we can test with this. And then I'm going to click add again. And now let's add that phone number. So again, I can just go ahead and type it in. Now, of course, I'm doing a US-based phone number, but if it's international, different, you can still add those phone numbers in there. Another thing that I really like is if you do street address, this actually syncs up to Google Maps. So when you start typing it in, look at this. See how it's starting to find it? That's what I want. So I'm going to click save. So it actually will start to locate it for you, which is really nice. So there's my details. And again, if I want to add another phone number, I could. Same with any of these other details. So there I have just my basic stuff in there. So that's how I added those. Now I'm adding this one by one. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I have to do this one by one. No, you don't have to. This is the great thing. If you do have a lot of contacts already, you can actually import all of them at once. Now, how you do this, you are going to click Import Contacts. So this is right under the new contact button. Just click Import Contacts. And then what you can do is you can go ahead and upload like a CSV file, Excel spreadsheet in here. But here's one of the biggest pro tips that I'm going to give you today is you can, of course, create your own spreadsheet on your own. And then it does need to be in this format. So see how it says like last name, first name, email. It will need to be in that format for us to see it. If it's not, we might be able to catch it and say like error, like this doesn't seem correct. But otherwise it should be just like that, really easy to do. So if you need to export your contacts from something else you use, you can do that. And then you might just have to copy and paste them like into the right way this in the spreadsheet. But here's something that I think is really awesome. At the top, this might be kind of hard to see on your screen, but there's a download the template file right here, that button. If you click that button, it's going to download a template file for you to use. So instead of opening up a whole new spreadsheet and saying, okay, last name, first name, email, we actually already made it for you. So you can just click that file and then you can go ahead, plug in your contacts, and then you can just go ahead and import them. You can drag and drop it in or just click and add them from your desktop, and then it'll add all of them at once. So that's a quick way. So if you already do have your contacts, definitely go ahead and do that. And that way you don't have to do it one by one. But another thing that I'm going to tell you, this is really important. Before you go and import contacts, do one more thing before this, and that is adding your custom fields. So remember when I was walking you through the interface, I was telling you how we already give you the options for email, phone, and address. But if you need other information, that's where you add your custom fields. So right now, I don't have any currently. So this will probably look like yours. So what you'd want to do is you can click add, but you can also just click this manage custom fields right here. And this is where you'll manage your fields for all of your contacts. So again, you don't have to do this for every single person. You just do this once, and then that custom field appears for every profile you add. But what you do is just say, create your first custom field. Now, I'm going to add a couple to show you. The first one's birth date. I think that's one of the most popular ones that most people need. And you can see here that in this dropdown, you are able to choose, is it short text? Is it going to be a date, which this one will be a date? Or is it protected? Protected, again, that is going to be like if you're asking for like passport number, it's a protected field. This is an amazing feature. In fact, this is a newer one. So if you've been with Travefy for a while, you might be like, I didn't know you could do that, because it's a little bit newer that you can now have these protected fields, which is just so cool. But in this case, since I'm asking birth date, I'm just going to go ahead and select date. So I can just go ahead and check that box, say, okay. So now I've created a field. So let's do another one here. So I'm going to click add another field. And I am going to say passport number. This is a big one. So I'm going to say passport number, and I am going to choose it is protected. So that's the type of field that is. Now let's do one more, just to give you some ideas here. The next one is dietary restrictions. So now I'm going to keep that as short text, because that's basically what that would be. So now I can just go ahead and say done editing. And now guess what just happened? Now that I have these custom fields, if you go back under this import contacts and you download that template file now, it is going to have, see, I don't know if you noticed this from before, but now it has the birth date, passport number, dietary restrictions. How incredible is that? I still am amazed. Our product team is so cool that they thought of this, like how handy. So the pro tip here is before you import your contacts, create a new one and then go add your custom fields first, and then go into get that template file. Then get that template file, because we'll have everything that you have options for in there. Pretty neat. Very cool. So it's very nice. It'll save you a lot of time doing that in there. Now, I do want to note too a couple other ways that you could get client contact information in here. So you can obviously create it one by one. You can import them all at once, but also you might notice contacts in your in here already if you have sent them a trip. So if you've emailed them a trip before, it'll go in here. And if you've emailed them a form, or if they filled it out and you create a new contact that way as well. So there's variations of ways that they can start getting in there. So it's not like you have to do it manually every time, which is really great as well. But just note that if you get in your account and you're like, I already have contacts in here, that's why. It's because you've already sent them something and we are connecting it. Since it's in Travefy, we can follow along and see that this person, you've been doing some stuff with them already, which is really cool. So now let's go back here because now we talked about importing clients and organizing them, all that great stuff. But now let's talk about the forms because you know how I just said how you can, if someone fills out a form, you could create a profile, new profile from that. I'll show you how. But one thing you can also do is you can also send forms directly to a person from here. So if you see down below, you can see that send form. Now, I only have these options because Bonnie actually created these in the last session, so that's why they're appearing in here. But otherwise, you might not see any forms yet. So what you can do is you could click new form and just build it from here. But your forms are actually living in the library. So let me click on the library. See right up at the top in that toolbar, there's a library. Now, again, the library, if you're unfamiliar, is a place where you save information to reuse again. So if you're building trips, you might be saving some stuff that you've created, all of that good stuff, but it's also where your forms are going to be living. So when you get in the library and you want to create a new form, all you're going to do is say at, or it'll be that little plus sign, new library item, that button, top left-hand corner. Click that. Now you can see there's a lot of things you can do in here, but for this right now, we want to do a form. So we are going to say form. Now, what I can do here is let's go ahead and title this. So I'm going to say client intake form. So I can do that, and I'm just going to give that title. But then from here, what you can do is you can start adding questions. You can add questions one by one. But since we're talking about this today as like, hey, I'm brand new at this, and I don't really know what I need to be asking. So here's what you can do. Use one of our templates. We have some templates already in here. So if you click create from template, you'll see this drop down. Now we have a template for new trips. So basic questions. This is going to be the one I choose. So you'll see this. We also have an example template for insurance waivers. So if you ever are doing a waiver for something, you can use that. And then also if it's like a proposal agreement, you'll also, which we're going to get into, credit card authorization. You are going to notice that this is currently grayed out. The reason why is because this account has not set up two-factor authentication yet. So we're going to discuss this more in just a little bit. But basically, two-factor authentication is what you do have to have turned on in order to use credit card authorization. It's because we're PCI compliant and you do have to have certain, additional, controls over an account. So we'll talk more about that, but that's why that's currently grayed out and why it might be grayed out for you. But then once you turn on two-factor authentication in your account, you're good to go. So we'll come back to that, but I'm going to go ahead and select for this option, this new trip inquiry one, because I just want to create like a really high level basic form. And you can see here that all of these questions are automatically pulled in. Now you can customize this. So if, for example, this last question says, what is your vacation budget? I know a lot of people don't like to ask that. They like to wait till they're on a call or like ask that in a different way. So you can do two things. You could either edit it. So if you want to click that pencil icon, you can completely change the wording of this or add additional instructions. Or if you just want to delete it completely, click that little red dot and then click delete. So that's how that works. Really simple. And then you can also drag and drop these questions around if you need as well. And then also, if there's questions in here that you need to ask that aren't on here, you would just click add new, and then you can say add new question. you ask your question. So let's say, in this example, I want to say, what is your birth date? Because I want to sync up something here. I want to do in this drop down, you could choose, what type of response are you looking for? Is it short, a long answer? Is it an address, a date? Now, here's where it gets really cool. So I could choose date, whatever it might be. But remember how birth date I already have set up in my custom fields? Now, here's something that's really great. In these forms, you have the option to set up smart field responses. Now, what a smart field response is that way, if they fill out, if this is a smart field response, they fill it out and then you push this response to either create a new contact or it's going into an already existing contact, it's going to update information about that person automatically. Okay, let me show you this because this will make more sense here. Let's say, for example, things like their name and email. These are types of things that if you were to get someone to fill out this form and they're a new client, you have the option to create a new contact profile out of those form responses. So the way that we at Travefy and our system knows where to send certain information is because it's set up as a smart field. So see how the smart field is set up and it's going to say contact name. And so that's what it is. So we could have this set up as just like a short answer, but then if you do have it set up that way, our system doesn't know where that response actually goes. So I'm actually going to have shortly after this, I'm going to have Bonnie fill out a form and you're going to see this in real time, like what it looks like in there. So that's basically, how you can do that. But what I love about this is that when you choose smart fields, you can also choose from your custom fields. So now if I choose the custom field for birth date and this person fills out their birth date, it's going to automatically go into that field that I have, that I've created for their profile. It's cool. When you see this, if it still isn't making sense, just wait till you see it in action. It'll be really cool. But really quick, a couple things that I do want to show you as well is that you also can add other things. Like if you ever want to add like, you don't want to add a question, you want to add like an image. So like a logo maybe, or you want to break up the form and have an image and then like or just some text. You do have that option. So you can add that customization in there. And then the last thing is you can also embed calendars. So we currently can work with Calendly. So if you use Calendly, that's basically a scheduling tool where it looks at your calendar. So if your client needs to schedule like an appointment with you, they can choose it from Calendly and it's seeing your schedule. So then it schedules it for you both. Now, Calendly is actually free. So if you're not using it, you can go create an account and you can use this. It's really cool. Highly recommend. All that. And we do have FAQs on this as well. So if you want to see that in action, check out those FAQs and it'll kind of walk you through how to do that. But with all of this, what I want to do is I want to show you how you send this to people. So now when you're ready to send it, you can go right up here at the top and you can click share. So you can click the share button. Now you can email this directly to them. So you could email this straight from Travefy. And then in here, you can also put a saved message if you want, or you can create your own custom message. But then if you have custom messages, you can also save them to reuse them. So that way, when they get this email to fill out the form, you can explain or put a message in there what it's for as well in there. And then the other option here is you can also just get a link. So you could just share this with them. There's a link right in here that you could just, if you want to just put it in like a Facebook group or email it to them or text it to them, you can also do that as well. Now, really quick, I'm going to email this to Bonnie. So Bonnie, heads up, she's under Sally Smith because remember, we already created her. So I'm going to send this form to Bonnie. And while I'm walking you through a couple things, I'm going to have Bonnie fill out this form so you can see it. But one thing that you can do is you can also preview it to see what does this look like for them. So if you click preview, you can see Now, you can view it on desktop. So if I'm viewing it on a larger screen, it'll look like this. So if I have like, if this is desktop, this is what it'll look like. And then they'll be able to go through and then they'll also see like, hey, these are required. I need you to fill that out, all that good stuff. But if they are viewing this on mobile, we try to make it really simple. So they just click one by one and go through. So that way it's just a little easier, for them to view, and then they can go ahead and submit those responses. So that's what's really great about that. They'll be able to see all of those in there. And now here, I'm going to let Bonnie finish filling that out there because we're going to see. Oh, is it? Oh, wait, nope. Not ready yet. I did have a
Not
lot of
ready
questions.
yet.
Sorry, I did. I should have put a fewer questions for you in here, but and I made all of them required too. So she's really got to fill them all out. So as we're waiting for those to come through, one thing is if you ever need to use these forms, you obviously can always come in, view the responses. But if you ever need to copy it, so like let's say you build like your own templates that you'll like to work out of, you can always click these little three dots and you can copy them. So that's one thing that's really handy that I see a lot of users do is instead of just constantly working off one form, they might be able to, copy that in there. And it looks like, ladies and gentlemen, we have a form response. So, okay, when you get a form response, you will get an email letting you know that they filled it out. And then you'll be able to come in here. Now, from here, you'll see this form response is from Sally Smith. The reason why Travefy is saying it's from this person is because they already were in my contacts. So we know who it is. So if it's a new person not in your contacts, it'll say the email that it came from. And then you'll be able to look here and view all of that. But then you'll have the option to assign it to a new contact, merge it into one existing already. You'll see those options. But if I click on this response, if I want to view what was responded with, I can click under forms and here it is. So now I could download a PDF if I wanted of this. But I can actually just click and view responses. So here we go. You can see now all the things. You can see that added, the phone. And actually, by the way, you didn't see this because Bonnie filled it out on her end. But the phone number, since I already had that, it actually filled it in already on that form for her. So again, those smart fields are so cool for you and your client. It just really helps. And then you can see her birth date. Notice how the birth date came in the custom fields. So see how I did that? I didn't have that before and I didn't have to add it. It's because she filled this form out. So it's so cool. It's so incredible in there. Now, one last thing, let me go back to that form really quick, because one other thing, if you do have, you have like a lot of responses, you can also export a spreadsheet out. So if you're dealing with like a group trip or something, and you want to export all those responses, you can choose to do that as well. So even though I'm viewing them one by one, you could export all of them together, which is really great too. So fun stuff in there. But one other thing that I wanted to talk about is we were already talking about, creating forms, but I also want to talk about the credit card authorization side of things. Because again, remember you do have to set up two-factor authentication because our forms or our credit card authorization, the reason why we can allow credit card authorization is because we're PCI compliant. In fact, we're the only tool out there that's end-to-end PCI compliant for this need. So what this means that we go through like rigorous auditing to make sure that our company can handle and accept this type of information for you and your clients. So you can rest easy, which is really great. But that's why you have to turn on two-factor authentication. So in your account, you can turn it on. You'll actually get this little pop-up where you can just go ahead and click try it out. And this is going to bring you in. Actually, it's going to try to make me set it up right now, which I don't want to do. But if you go into your account settings, go under security, and this is where you can set it up. And this is just like if you've dealt with like mobile banking before, where basically we're going to ask for your phone number, and then we're going to send you a text with some numbers that you then have to say, okay, what numbers were those? That's just how we know. So that way, when you log in and you enter your password, we're going to need to know again, like, okay, what are those numbers? Let us double check that this is you. So that's what it is. So then once you have that set up, you'll then be able to choose the option for credit card authorization. And I'm going to show you here. Let me go to my other account that is already set up. So let me go in here. And basically, in here, when you do have your credit card authorization, you will have the option. It's basically just it's just like an option response that will appear for you. And again, if it's grayed out, it's just because you don't have two-factor authentication turned on, and you can turn that on. And then when you send this to your client, what it looks like is this. Let's show you here. It'll look like this. They can enter their payment information. Once they fill this out, they'll receive an email with the like last four digits of the number they added. It also includes like the timestamp they filled this out, their e-signature in it, what's the IP address. I mean, we get down to the details because it's really important to get this type of information, because if, hopefully it doesn't happen, but if you get a chargeback, you have proof that they filled this out and it was done in the correct way. So that's what that is, like how that works. Now, once they do fill it out, and you need to go access that card information, like you need to pay a supplier, you need to access it, all you're going to do is go into their profile like you would to get any other response. And you're going to click under forms. And then you will be able to view the responses just like we did earlier. But now notice how it says like this card info. And if I click view details, this is how I can now see everything. So that's how that works. So it's really easy. Again, let me show you that one more time. So to get the credit card authorization information, you just click into the forms that they filled out, view the response, view the details, and there it is. So it's really great. And yeah, I just saw this question come in, that how long does it stay in there? So that's for you to determine. So when you're sending the form, you can say how long you want it to go. Now you can't keep it forever because that's just not PCI compliant. So you can, I don't remember the exact amount, but you could do it like 180 days or something if you need. But we do only keep the CVV for 30. So that's only, you can see here that this actually expired on May 23rd, but I can still get the card info, but that CVV, and again, we just can't do that. We're not allowed to. It's just not good practice. So if you do need to get, like if you're doing payment plans, which I'll actually show you here in a little bit, you can actually you'll want to send the forms individually. So it's like, this is authorizing for this payment, or this is authorizing for this one. So that's all the things. So that's kind of how that works in there. Now, one last thing I want to talk about with forms is to get started with forms. Again, I showed you, so let me change my screen again here. But I did show you how you get into those templates that we have. But Bonnie was sharing this earlier, but we just released what's called Marketplace, and it is so cool. It's basically a community area where Travefy users are sharing things that they've created. So if someone's created like a form, they can decide to share that in Marketplace, and you can go use it and copy it into your own account. So I highly recommend doing this. So when you get in your account, click Marketplace at the top. And then in here, you can find everything from itineraries to like messages, little saved messages. But if you go to like forms, so like let's just say like group trip form, you can see as I start to search here, and then we can narrow it down, and you can then look and see what this form looks like, and then you can just click copy to library. So that's a great way to get started. I also want to share, though, I'm going to drop this in the chat. This also, we've been adding a lot of freebie stuff in here. This link that I just shared with you, I have included. So in here, under this one right here, I have included a lot of shareables that you can just click on and you can save to your account. So you can just like get running to hit the ground running right now, which is super cool. So keep that in mind. A lot of times some people just don't know where to start, and good news, you don't have to. You can just go find things that are already made and use those, which is so great. Now a couple more things I want to talk about, and then I'll try to get to some questions here. But one is I did want to talk about invoicing. We do have an invoicing feature. Now, this we call it invoices, but it's only for collecting fees. So credit card authorization is typically probably what you're using most of the time, because credit card authorizations is how you're actually getting the card information so that way you can go pay something else. But for our invoice tool, you can use this if you collect service fees or booking fees, whatever you might call them. This is where you can actually collect the money and get it right away. So you're not doing a credit card authorization, you're just getting the information and that money. How this works, where you find this is if you click on your name, top right-hand corner, drop down menu, you'll see here where it says invoices. Click on invoices. Now you're going to see that it has not been set up yet. So this is the key thing. What we're doing is we're using Stripe. So if you've ever heard of Stripe, it's what we use at Travefy. It's what we use for our payments. Stripe is a payment collection tool. And so basically what you're doing is you're using Stripe, but you're just using Travefy as a way to keep it all organized and send those invoices from Travefy, but it's all being collected through Stripe. So to set up Stripe, you can just say connect to payment account. To set up Stripe, I mean, you can go to stripe.com. And yeah, thank you. Bonnie just put in more because I know there'll be a lot of questions about this. I would recommend checking out this article. You'll set up your Stripe account. Completely free to do. And then in there, you can also do things like you can customize your invoicing with your brand logos, colors, all that stuff. And then you can also choose like, I want to accept ACH, I want to accept the bank, you can choose all of that. So then when you're in Travefy, you can send an invoice. And then what's great is, again, we're not dealing with any of the payment. So we're not going to charge you a fee to use it. But Stripe does. So Stripe has a 2.9% processing fee, which is really good. So no fee from Travefy, just the processing fee from Stripe themselves. That's all you're dealing with. So it's really easy to do. And when you want to send an invoice, let me show you what this looks like here. So I'm going to go back into this account and let's go to my invoices here. You can see here's an invoice that I've already sent, but if I want to create a new one, once you do set up Stripe and it accepts everything and it's all good to go, you'll be able to just say new invoice. You'll choose who's the contact. So again, we can say Jane Doe here, and then you can choose your currency. And then let's say my fee is $250. Now you can choose, there's a couple options depending on how you word this. And then you can put in for the memo, say, for Cancun vacation planning fee, and then send it. And then now it's going to send to Jane, and then she'll be able to put in her payment information. And then once it gets paid, I will be able to access everything in Stripe. So you're getting paid directly, which is really cool. But again, it is important to note, this is only for service fees. So Stripe cannot accept planning, other stuff like just can't do that. It's just not allowed. But you can use this for collecting your consulting fees or planning fees. For everything else though, you would use the credit card authorization in there. Okay, so I knew I would come close on time here. I have so much to share. So, okay, I'm going to jump into one final thing here with you all, is talking about task lists and automations. So everything we've talked about, you can see you can send an invoice, you can send a form. You can also do things like you can send chat messages, which we were talking about in the last session. Now, you can do all of that one by one, but how great would it be if you can automate this? So think of it like this. Like, let's say, you have, you're setting up like a payment plan. You need to automate to send those forms at a certain time. You can do that. Now, how this works is we call them tasks. So they're tasks and automations or task automations. And that's what it is. It's like a task that needs to happen at a certain time. So you can set up tasks in a contact profile. So if I need to remember to follow up with Sally Smith, I can create a task for myself. I can also set up an automation to send a form to her on this day, so I don't have to remember to do it. So you can do that. You can also set up tasks within a trip. So you could say under tasks and automations, say, I need to remember to do this. And then you also, finally, you can also set up a task just for yourself. So if you just need to set up like a one-off task, you can do that as well. But to pull all of this together, you can also set up what we call task lists. Now, this means you are putting multiple tasks in one thing and saving that list to reuse over and over again. So let me show you an example here. You would create your task list in your library. That's where they will live. And then you're going to say new library item, and then we're going to say task list. Now, this quick example I'm going to show you is, let's say I have a pre, during, and after trip task list. Now, one thing I want to add in here is a task for myself. So I'm just going to say add task. And the task is to check and finalize itinerary. So now I can say the date is going to be, let's say, for 2 weeks before that trip start date. That's when I like to make sure and double check they are good to go. So that's how you do that. And then the date will fill in for itself based on that trip. Now, the other thing I can do is, like, let's say I want to automate a message to send, so they can to send their itinerary a couple days before. So I can say add automation. Now, this automation, you can choose. Are you sending a trip invite? Is it a form, trip chat message, invoice? So I want the invite. And I could add a custom message here and just say, like, get ready for your trip, make sure you download the app, get all this stuff, whatever you need to include. And again, you can save those messages. And then I can also say, let's do this 2 days before that trip start date. So there we go. Now let's do one more here. Let's say that I want to send a chat message, and I want to send this message during the trip and just say, just checking in, how is the trip going? And then let's say this is going to do 3 days after trip start date. And there we go. And then you also can do things after. So if you want to send like a feedback form, you can have that automate to send like 3 days after the trip end date, things like that. So you can do a lot of different things with that. Now, once you create this task list, you can start using it and you can add it to a trip. So let's go back into our trips here. Now, let's do this one that Bonnie created in our last session. Let's say we want to add it to this trip. So I'm going to go under tasks and automations, click add, and then choose task list, and then see how that one right there is in there. And there it is. Now, of course, you can add one-off things if you wanted, but see how the dates came in automatically? It's pretty incredible. Now, one other thing, all these task lists, to get you started, head on over again to this link that we shared in the chat. And I put some task lists in there, but you can also find some in Marketplace. So if you don't know where to begin, or you want to see like the workflows other people are doing, check those out. I think it'll be really, really helpful in there. Okay, I know that was a lot in there, and I might have just stirred up more questions even. So let me jump into a couple of these. I know Bonnie has shared some with me already. So I want to jump into those. Lisa had asked, is there a way to import a client list? Yes. So there's a couple parts of this question, but the first one is, or a way to import, yes. So you can import them, of course. Where am I at? There we go. Again, we talked about that. You can import this way, or you can import them one by one. You can also export. So if you ever need to export all your clients, you can do that in your account settings. The other part of this question was, who owns client information once entered into Travefy, us or you? That's a good question. And it is not us. That's the beauty. So good thing is we don't do anything. We have no use for any of this. So we don't have anything, even though it's being stored, we don't do anything with it. It's all yours in there as well. And then again, yes, so exporting, if you do need to export out your contacts, one thing you can do is if you go to your account settings, I believe it's under, which one? Oh, right here, under data, export contacts. There it is. It is in there as well. Oh, and then another question here is, can the form be customized with logo? Yes, that's a big question that we get a lot. So what you would do if you want to customize it is you would choose the option to add new and choose text and image. upload your logo right in there. If you upload your logo here, and then you can, again, you could like drag and drop it to the top so it appears at the top. That's how you can do that, which is really great. Charlene asks here, where can you place reminders to send birthday greetings, etc., things like that. So that's going to be your tasks. Now, what I would recommend for like specific to, specific client ones, I would go into their contact profile and I would just manually create a task and say, I mean, you could literally automate this. You could do that, or you can just say add a task, and just say like send birthday greeting, or whatever it might be. But you know what, another thing you can do, this is really fun. One user had told me that they send that their itinerary a year after they went on it, just as a reminder. Be like, remember when you went on this, like, let's get planning your next one. You could do that by just automating the trip for it. You can send that trip again and then leave a little message and then choose the date that you're sending it on. Isn't that cool? It's a really cool idea of how to do that. Another question here is, do you have sample templates for automations? 100%. And I really recommend it because I know it might be kind of hard to think of like, what do I need to do? Well, first of all, I say just write down all the stuff that you do for a trip. Like you have to contact the supplier. You have to double check that their itinerary is good. Are their documents uploaded? And create a task list of all that. But also, you can also check out this article that we shared as well. And then here, I'm going to drop that in one more time here as well. And then the other thing is I really recommend Marketplace. Go into Marketplace and just start searching stuff. So I could type in task list. And then you can also do a filter and you can say like, oh, I need a certain, only task lists. And you can see here. And then you'll be able to look at everything and then you can copy it. Another great thing about this is if somebody has a task list that has like forms built in or like certain things, you'll get the forms as well. So you'll get like all of it that's part of the task list, which is really cool. So I was very excited when we released Marketplace a couple months ago. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to make New Agent Bootcamp so incredible. So I really recommend go to Marketplace, go in there. It's really, really great. Okay, last question I'm going to be able to get from Tammy here is, how do you make the form you send to your client a required question to answer? That's a good question because nothing's worse than having them fill it out and then you're like, I missed that. Now I need to ask it again. So what you'll want to do is when you're creating the form, you'll just say, whether it's a question that you're adding, you just say yes. So there's an option, is it required? So if you need to go into like the questions that were, you need to double check, just click yes, and then make sure that it's required. Usually a lot of these are required already, but some of them aren't. So when you're making them manually, you will probably have to just check that yes option in there. I'm going to answer this question really quick too, because Giovanni just asked, are the forms we make automatically available to everyone in Marketplace? This is so important to know. No, they are not. So could you imagine? You're like, oh my God, all my stuff is in there. No. So I'm glad you asked this because Marketplace, it's really important to note that anything you see in Marketplace has been purposely chosen to be shared in there. So to show you what it would be like, if I had this form and I want to share it in Marketplace, I would have to click share. I would have to check this, and I would have to check list in Marketplace. So nothing is being shared without you knowing. You have to physically, manually press that option. So I'm glad you asked that because that could be, safe and secure. You don't want your information floating out there and you don't know it. Good news is it will not. You have to choose that option as well in there. But with all that being said, I mean, whoa, this was a lot. I want to remind everybody, though, that as you get in here and you start getting questions, because they'll for sure pop up. And if we didn't get to them in here. I'm so sorry. But email our team at professional@travefy.com. You can also chat us, just right down here, live chat us down there. Do it right now. They are in there. Our team is ready for you. Go ahead and send a message in there, and you can we can answer you right back. But also, I mentioned this before, but we do one-on-one trainings. So if you are the type of person and you're like, I really just need to get on here one-on-one with somebody and explain what I'm trying to do, set that up. You can do that. That's the beauty of all of this, is we are definitely here and happy to help. But the final thing here, so I'm just going through these slides, is the next session and the final one. We are almost done. This is crazy. This has gone by very quick. But Bonnie is going to come back in and setting up your travel website with Travefy. Bonnie, what can they expect in this next session?
So many things. I know
Yeah.
one attendee was like, can we make sure we walk through how we can test our website out before we publish it? Yes, we will definitely cover that. We're going to really build a 2-page website together so you know how it works. And again, this is for everyone. You don't need to have website design experience. You don't need to know coding. If you do, that's just even better knowledge for you, but this
Yeah.
will be a fun one. It's always a good one to end on.
I know. It's so exciting. Yeah. I am really, really excited. And then also, if any of you are not in Travefy yet, which hopefully we got you in here now, you're like, I need to get in there now. You can do a free trial if you go to travefy.com, and you can start a free 10-day trial in there and get started, jump in there. But otherwise, we will see you soon. I know someone just asked, what is the link to join for the next one? And you'll just want to go, yep, thank you, Bonnie. She's on it. And you'll just want to go to that main page. And again, those recordings will be available in there as well. So we'll take a breather, go get a drink of water or coffee or whatever time of the day it is, maybe a cocktail time. And then we will see you for the last session about setting up your website with Travefy. So we'll see you soon.
Sweet.
Woo.
See you then.